A Russian drone attack overnight on the southern Ukraine city of Odessa has injured 23 people. 9 of the victims, including 2 children and a pregnant woman, have been hospitalized. The State Emergency Service of Ukraine in Odessa released video showing firefighters evacuating residents and clearing rubble from a partially destroyed residential building. The attack comes after the first phase of the trilateral talks in Abu Dhabi, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky saying the next meeting with the US and Russian delegations could take place on February the 1st. We are being joined back again by Alison Mutler. So, Alison, how do these continued attacks on these cities, whilst these peace talks are being planned, affect the chances of a meaningful diplomacy and a ceasefire?
Well, I think actually the Russian strikes on Odessa, not only on Odessa in the eastern part of Ukraine and on Kiev, actually adds another layer of tension. It's Russia signaling that it's unwilling to back down. We're not seeing here a diplomatic or a peaceful Russia, but I think it is Russia trying to strong-arm its way through these peace talks. Russia has shown that it wants its maximalist demands. It wants territory that it has not captured and which Ukraine does not want to cede to Russia. And continuing these attacks on civilian targets, on energy targets during a bitter winter is not going to help peace talks. Quite the opposite. Russia is hoping to intimidate Ukraine. It's hoping to reduce morale. It's hoping for people will turn against Zelensky and will want peace at any price. But Ukraine has stood firm almost for 4 years, and it wants a peace, but a just peace. But Russia is showing that it is not prepared to back down on its demands or its attacks on Ukraine.
Of civilian areas and infrastructure, tell us about how the war is being fought now.
Well, the war is being fought from the Russian side. They are attacking energy centres, energy infrastructures, and that's because it's one of the coldest winter in recent years. It plummets to like minus 14 degrees Celsius in some areas, and that takes out heat and that takes out electricity, and that makes it very difficult. And that also means that the Ukrainian emergency officials have to repair these facilities, which takes them away from other jobs. And they're also Russia is also targeting civilian residential areas, and that is, basically killing people. So it's really gone from just attacking eastern Ukraine, where they claim Russia claims they have some sort of right to that territory, to attacking other strategic areas in Ukraine, including Odessa, which is a port on the Black Sea, and other areas, and Kiev, and it's to cause as much misery as possible. Now, Ukraine is hitting back. They're using drones, and they are targeting military depots, and the idea is to weaken Russia's war effort. But Ukraine isn't targeting is not targeting civilian targets. They are just trying to weaken Russia so that it helps them, and it lessens the hostilities against them.
Yeah. What signals do you think the timings of these renewed attacks send to international mediators who are trying to all help with a ceasefire deal?
I think it sends a signal from Russia that they're not prepared to back down. So what we've heard so far from various peace deals, that Russia has these maximalist demands. Basically, it wants a lot of territory which it hasn't conquered or captured during these hostilities. And Russia is not going to be a partner that will make concessions or any compromises. That's the message it's sending. Obviously, we don't know what's happening behind closed doors. But Russia does not seem, at this moment, a partner that is willing to end this war or to stop its hostilities unless it gets what it wants. And what it wants, Ukraine can't agree to.
Thank you so much, Alison Mutler, for joining us here on NewsX World. China has expressed support for Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro, who was captured by the United States. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jikun called the US actions acts of intimidation that violate international law and infringe on Venezuela's sovereignty. Gual said China supports Venezuela in defending its sovereignty, dignity and legitimate rights, and is ready to join the international community in defending the UN Charter and upholding international justice and fairness. On January the 3rd, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Gil Pinito described the US strikes on civilian and military targets in Caracas as military aggression. President Donald Trump later confirmed the attacks and announced the capture of Maduro and his wife, who were transported to a detention facility in New York. We are now being joined by Collins Chong-Yu-Keat, a foreign affairs, security and strategy analyst. Thank you so much for joining us here today on NewsX World. So, why do you think China is criticising the US for capturing Nicolás Maduro, and what principle is it trying to defend?
Well, it's a continuation of the narrative seeking opportunities by Beijing to frame the actions by Washington as one that is threatening in nature, in the sense of threatening the conventional rules-based order, the one that the US itself is now trying to defend. But Beijing is trying to point out the hypocrisy of what President Trump has been doing in terms of destabilizing the UN Charter. So of course, this is also being seen as trying to galvanize the support from the global South, and trying to be seen as the defender of the global South, and to enhance the solidarity and to protect the rights of the nations, especially from the global South. So we have seen how China is trying to project itself as the de facto leader of global South and as the protector of the UN Charter, and trying to frame the US as the one that is trying to destabilize the whole region and the whole world. And this rhetoric has been a reflection of China's stance in terms of also the close ties with Venezuela in terms of economic ties, geopolitical ties also, and Caracas has been one of China's most important partners in Latin America. And now that what President Trump has done is to essentially stop, to halt this linkage, this momentum, and this has forced Beijing to a tighter corner. And of course, also this is also being seen as a continuation of the timeline to frame this as one that is a hypocritical move by Washington, especially the actions by President Trump, and also trying to seize upon this new opening to project China, to elevate the status of China as one that is responsible, that is respectful of the rights of other nations, in light of its own criticisms, in terms of the perspectives and perceptions on China's actions in terms of also destabilizing the regional peace and stability with the actions on South China Sea, on Taiwan Strait and all that. So this is also being done in parallel to those actions, and trying to project a better image of China, especially in the global South.
And we know there's already some tensions between China and the US at the minute. How could China's strong response affect that?
Well, we've seen how Beijing would not want to of course also send a wrong message, and of course also to have this risk of Washington seeing this as a needed pretext to do even greater actions on Venezuela. We've seen how China is stopping short of providing hard power support to Venezuela, and all those measures are being confined to this diplomatic support, to this also vocal support in upholding the tenets and narratives of the global governance, in terms of also defending the UN Charter, defending the sanctity of global norms. But this is the red line. This is the boundaries that China is willing to partake in, stopping short of providing economic retaliation actions, knowing how well now Beijing is trapped by the actions by President Trump, starting also from the Biden administration in terms of technology sanctions, tech restrictions, the outflow of capital, outflow of investments, and of course also these various measures in place on tariff, and now that this decoupling measure. So China itself is increasingly trapped, and of course by having greater retaliative actions over Venezuela. I don't think that it's worth it for Beijing to do that. Now that it's trying also to seize upon these new divisions between Washington and close allies, including with Europe. And we've seen how China also is now trying to position itself closer with Canada, with South Korea, with the UK, as in light with what has happened recently in the case of Greenland and the European division over that. So of course also now China is trying to build this in parallel, and Venezuela is just another process in the whole timeline.
Thank you so much, Colin Strong-Yu-Keat, for joining us
Ellie.
here on NewsX World.